Okay, so I said in my last video that I'm going to be posting another one pretty soon after, and I'm sticking to that. So here I am. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching my videos. This video is going to be about my, well, it's going to show you guys my February bullet journal setup. But before I get to that, I wanted to give you a quick look at my art book proofs that I've been talking about for the past couple of months, and here they are. Okay, so here are the proofs that I got finally from my manufacturer for my new art book, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at them because I'm extremely excited. And honestly, this whole thing has been seriously stretched out in terms of how long it was supposed to take, which is a little bit sad, but you know, that's just how these things go. But it's finally back on track, and I got these samples a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to show you guys. So I'm gonna get a hardcover and a softcover version of this book, and I'm pretty happy with how those samples look. I think they look great, pretty much look exactly how I wanted them to. There's like some holographic details that you can see right here. There's some changes that I'm gonna make, which I probably won't get into, but one of them is I wanna remove the holographic stamp from the eye over here because I think it looks a little silly and distracting. I don't know, I kind of pictured it differently in my mind, I guess, but whatever. One of the things I'm a huge fan of is these flaps. I think they look really nice. I've always wanted to do something like that with a book cover. I actually spent so long on this cover, much longer than the last one. So this time it was obviously designed specifically for the purpose of being able to do the flap thing. I don't know how to word that any better. And this is the entire image. Oops. Alright. There you go. There's some text. Yeah, I'm gotta say I'm pretty proud of myself. I think I did a much better job with the cover jacket this time around, and I do really like the white space over here. There's a little bit of holographic effect on the back here too, and the samples are actually missing the UV stamping. So they told me that their partner factory is the one that does the UV stamping, and it was still not back in production yet when they were making these samples for me, so they just wanted to get it done so that we could sort out the remaining details, and they assured me that the UV will be done properly like last time, which I believe them because my books turned out great last time, and I'm going with the same factory. So yeah, here, oh yeah, I guess, well, I'll show you guys the hardcover first. This is the hardcover. It looks great, it feels really good, super sturdy. It's a little bit beaten up because they only sent me a couple of these proofs, obviously, and these things do tend to get banged up when they send them on such short notice. But I love this little blue ribbon detail, and there are no flaps, obviously, but I think the inside leaves look great. I like the design a lot, and yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot to say. It's just a hardcover, and it's really sturdy, and it feels nice. And I'll show you guys a couple of the inside pages. The quality is great, like last time. Yeah, I mean, I just put in a random assortment of like 16 pages or so, just to get a sense of the colors, see if I need to adjust anything. I'm just gonna adjust the margins a little bit because I think I made a mistake when I was putting together the pages, but it's fine. I've already actually done that. And yeah, just a small preview. And yeah, like I said, everything looks great. I had absolutely no issues on the inside pages whatsoever. Oh, this turned out pretty awesome, I think. I love double page spreads. But yeah, so that's about it. I mean, I don't have a whole lot else to say. I just wanted to give you guys an update, and I also wanted to thank all of you for pre-ordering my book. I've been really glad that a lot of you are being so supportive, from YouTube specifically, because I noticed that every time I post a new video I get like a couple of new pre-orders for the book, and thank you guys so much for that. It's definitely helping me keep afloat, and I'm super excited to finally finish up the contents and send it off to be printed. So yeah, and obviously I will keep you all updated on that as well. And yes, look at my nails. Aren't they so mesmerizing? Oh my god, I'm just obsessed with this. I've never really gotten my nails done much before, so you probably won't hear the end of this for a little bit, but yeah. Yes, okay, so back to the actual video. Oh yeah, there's just one more thing I wanted to let you guys know. I'm going to hold a huge sale on my store Envy, 20% off everything except for the art book pre-orders, because obviously you can't change the price for those until after the book comes out. But yeah, I'll be holding that sale for about a week, starting this Friday, probably today, the day that I'm going to hopefully post this video, and until next week, which is March 20th. Mostly holding the sale so that I can hopefully get rid of some old stock, retire some old products like prints that are kind of old and outdated, so that I can have some new stuff coming in. And I'm also gonna try to raise some money to create a bunch of new merch that I've been thinking a lot about and already got some testers for. So yeah, super exciting. And if you guys wanted to help me make new merch and support my artistic endeavors, consider taking a look at my store and maybe picking something up. Okay, so for the rest of the video, I am just going to have the background of me setting up my February bullet journal, and I want to talk to you guys about my art journey, I guess, in a sense, or I just wanted to go over like a brief history of how I started drawing, the phases that I went through with education I had, and the kind of stuff that I've been up to. I mean, it sounds like a pretty huge topic, so I don't know if I will be able to cover all of it in detail, but I know that a lot of you guys haven't been following me for a very long time, so I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what my art career slash hobby slash whatever this is has been like. And just a quick note, the stuff that I've been doing on screen is just showing you guys what materials I'm going to be using. It's pretty straightforward, there's not a whole lot to explain, so I won't really get into talking about that. But if you wanted to know what I'm using specifically or where I got it from, you can always leave a comment down below and I will get back to you soon, or as soon as I can. Okay, so without further ado, I will start the discussion or slash story time or whatever of what my artistic career has been like up until now. Okay, so that's probably gonna be quite a long video going forward, and I suggest maybe grab a sketchbook or something, or make yourself a cup of tea, because I'm just gonna go over all the things. And in preparation, I did make a little list of bullet points so that I don't get too far off track, because you know how I'm very prone to doing that. But yeah, so I guess to start, I've always really liked drawing. That's definitely something that I found myself drawn to, hilariously, ever since I was very young. I guess ever since I can remember. So between the ages of like 3 and like 8 or something, those were the super easygoing years. I do actually remember quite a lot of my life from then, even though my memory is total shit when it comes to actually important things. But yeah, so my parents actually really wanted me to get into music, and so I started playing violin when I was 6, and I guess they paid for like music lessons and stuff, and they wanted me to take it pretty seriously. I don't know why. Now that I think about it, it was pretty weird, because they did have some sort of plan for me to complete like a proper music education thing and get into teaching violin in the future. I know this because after they immigrated to Canada, they resumed my violin lessons, and that went all the way up until I was finished with this thing called the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, until they wanted me to take the teachers thing that came next, and I just declined, and I was like, well, you can't make me do this because I really don't want to do this shit. So yeah, that was that. Anyways, now that I think about it, I don't know why they were so stuck on me going into music, but even though I can't say that I really enjoyed it much. I don't regret it, because I do love music in general, and it's something I care about a lot, and I have been playing other instruments, or trying to learn how to play other instruments for fun since then, and it really helps having like a background in music, I guess. But anyways, that's the first tangent right there. Okay, so back to when I was younger. Yeah, so while I was playing violin and being forced to play violin, I've always really liked to draw for fun. That was my favorite thing to do. And I remember like keeping weird journals when I was little. I guess I started doing this a little bit later on, when I was maybe around 10 or 9 or something, but I really always liked notebooks, like keeping private notebooks and having all sorts of stuff going on in the notebooks. I know that sounds really weird and it doesn't really make any sense, but more specifically, I guess, I remember this one time where I started like this one notebook that I just pretended was like a magazine that was reporting on some sort of like news in, I guess from an animation studio, I think is what the idea was. And presumably this animation studio, which was just me, had a bunch of different IPs, and it was just like articles on introducing new characters, or where's it? I don't know, it was pretty bizarre now that I think back on it, because I didn't think these things through thoroughly. I just really wanted to introduce different things in that notebook, I guess, and I would just draw a bunch of characters on my sketchbook and then cut them out and like paste them into the notebook and like write a bunch of information about the characters, pretending like it was like some sort of big reveal. Yeah, I did some crazy shit like that, yes. So yeah, but I guess that was a little bit later on. So to backtrack a little bit, how I started getting into drawing more consistently was when I started, you know, watching cartoons and TV, and Pokemon was one of the first things that really got me into it. So I've always had this tendency to kind of jump right into trying to create my own versions of something that I was really into at the time. So this started with Pokemon. So as soon as I saw Pokemon, I was like, oh my god, I want to make my own Pokemon, or design my own Pokemon, or whatever. So that's kind of what I did. And for some reason, I also started making little comics. I don't remember liking the human characters in Pokemon. I was mostly just obsessed with the creatures, and I made little comics of the Pokemon having their like little adventures or whatever in the wild. So that was a lot of fun. I actually did that a lot when I was maybe in grade 6. So just right after my parents immigrated to Canada from Russia. I was born in Russia, and I was like 11. I was around 11 when they came to Canada. So I didn't speak any English, and I was always, well, when I was younger especially, I was much more shy and very introverted. So to me, like, the idea of approaching someone to try to make a friend was like preposterous. I would never do something like that. It was way too nerve-wracking. So I spent a lot of time by myself. That's not to say I didn't have any friends or I didn't make any, because it's weird. I've always had this thing where I will be completely anxious about the idea of something, but then I would have like a random instance in which all the anxiety or whatever, or like my previous personality predispositions will just fly out the window, and I will just do something completely out of character. And actually, that's how I met my best friend. She was just this random girl who was standing in the middle of the playground when I was 11, and I just, for some reason, decided that I will approach her and I will start a conversation. That's like kind of irrelevant, but it's also a little bit relevant, because I ended up making a lot of stories and my characters with her. So it was like our hobby together when we were in middle school and high school. But anyways, yeah, I still spent a ton of time by myself and mostly spent that time drawing, and a little bit after reading comics. So the first thing that I really got into heavily, aside from like watching Pokemon or whatever, was Sailor Moon. I think that's something a lot of artists of my generation have in common. Sailor Moon was really popular in like the late 90s and 2000s. That's when the dub made its way over to the US/Western world, I think. And there was a Russian dub as well that was starting to pop up on TV when I was about 9 or 10. So that's kind of when I was first exposed to it, and I loved it from the get-go. Like the very first time I saw an episode of Sailor Moon, it was like the funniest thing, and it was just the most amazing thing I've seen. At the time, I was like extremely into it right off the bat. And yeah, I'm not sure when it actually became popular, or because I tend to be sometimes late to these things. But anyways, yeah, I was really into it when I was about 11, 12, 13, those few years. I was completely obsessed, and that's when I guess internet started being a thing. I'm not sure about this because Russia was a little behind, like probably still is, in terms of technology and stuff. So before I came to Canada, I didn't really have internet access, and that's just not something that I even knew that was a thing. But when I started going to school in Canada, that's when, you know, the search engine thing popped up, and then you could, honestly, all I did was Google images all day at school, and just like use up all the school printer paper slash ink to print out pictures of the Sailor Moon manga, because it was like, I was just obsessed. So I was collecting little references for myself to use, and I was just absolutely in love with the art style, specifically of the comic. And yeah. Okay, so I just realized that I've been rambling for at least 10 minutes already, and I don't want this video to be way too long like some of my previous videos are. Oh my god, I don't even know where to go from this, because I've literally hit like the first 4 bullet points of my notes out of like 30, and I'm panicking because I definitely know that I can't talk about the entire history of my art career going forward. So I guess maybe I'll keep this to the early years or something. Alright, moving on. I'll try to be more concise going forward. So Sailor Moon, yes, that's how I started drawing more seriously. I was drawing all the time, and that's also around when I came to Canada, so I didn't really speak any English, and I was super introverted, so I didn't like talk to friends a whole lot. Mostly just spent time alone and drawing a lot. I was actually pretty happy for a couple of years before, you know, the debilitating depression hit when I was like 13, and suddenly every day was an existential crisis day. But yeah, I still drew every day, like the entire time anyways, which was, I think it kind of became my coping mechanism at that point. So yeah, I guess on that note, that's when I started making my own characters and creating my own stories. And I did a lot of this with my best friend, because we did briefly go to the same school, and even though she moved shortly after we met, maybe about a year after we met, we just would talk on the phone like every single day, and we really continued this making stories together thing going for quite some time. Yeah, and my dream was always to make it into a comic, and obviously at the time I was maybe like 13, 14. I found my skills like woefully insufficient, so I've kept a lot of the art from that time, so I think I am going to make another video where I actually show you guys a visual history of my art, but that's for another day for sure. That's gonna take some work, digging all that stuff up. But yeah, I remember having this big stack of first pages, like the first page of my comic, but I just kept doing it over and over again because I kept coming up with new ideas. Yeah, I could not commit, and even though looking back, those pages weren't as terrible as I thought they were at the time, I still constantly felt like I wasn't ready and it was just gonna be shit, and I would have to just keep starting over, which is what I kept doing. And I guess I didn't really have like a specific storyline anyways, and things kept changing, but the one thing that I did draw a lot was my characters. So I would just draw them constantly, and honestly, I draw some of the same characters now to this day. Like, one of my main stories that I am in the process of reworking now, previously known as It Fracture. I am going to change the title, but I actually started that as a high school project. I think in grade 10 or something, we had this project where I had to make 10 pages of a comic, like a sequential art thing, and we could partner up with a person. So I partnered up with this Korean girl who was one of my friends in high school, and we just came up with like I came up with the premise for It Fracture, which wasn't really It Fracture at the time. It was just supposed to be about the main character, who's Fiona. But yeah, it was just like this total gag thing, and it was just jokes. None of it was very serious at all. But that was the very first time that I drew 10 consecutive pages of anything, and this was so important. It was like this huge milestone to me that I was like, okay, you know what, I can't just let this slide and start over again or work on something else, because I've come this far, I must continue. So I kind of went over the pages and I decided to just kind of write, take another pass at the story, keeping the 10 pages that I did do already. And yeah, even after that project was over at school or whatever, I just kept going with it, and I ended up keeping with it up until I was maybe 20. So I mean, given the amount of time that passed between starting that comic, I think I was like 15 or 16, so it was about maybe 4 years that I ended up working on it on and off. I only came up with about 100 pages, maybe 110 pages from what I can remember, I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a crazy thing, because I really did feel super committed to it, so I never wanted to stop. But obviously those were some seriously turbulent years in my life, and my mood was just all over the place, so I ended up taking very long breaks from the comic, and sometimes I would really hate how the art was turning out, and other times I was happy, and I just kept changing the style to whatever my style evolved to at the time, with total disregard for what the comic looked like. So oh my god, it ended up looking like the characters aged years in the span of those 100 pages, even though the story took place within like freaking like 3 days or something, or like a couple of days, or even a day, I don't really remember. But yeah, so I guess that comic ended up looking like a pretty good overview of my style's evolution, which is actually kind of how I refer to, because I do have that comic in my store in V-Shop and I do sell it, but obviously not for any story entertainment purposes, even though I personally still find it very entertaining to this day. But that's just like a blast from the past thing for me and my friend. But yeah, it's a really good look at how my art has changed over the years. And yeah, so this video is getting out of control and I don't really know what to do with this, so I think I might want to just stop right here and make a part 2 with actual art in the background and not my bullet journal stuff, because I know that it's not like the most interesting thing to you guys probably, but I mean, it's a part of my life and I just wanted to share it. So yeah. So thank you for watching my video, and please let me know if you have any questions down below in the comments, and I will answer as many of them as I can, as soon as I can, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!